I saw a lion tearing apart a wildebeest for breakfast and ate ox balls at this restaurant where everyone thought we were famous. And if that's not adventurous enough for you, I'm just getting started. Hey there, Ultimate Travelers. My name is Yllara Maia, and I'm here to give you an in-depth review of EF Ultimate Breaks Kenya African Safari trip. So you can go ahead and decide whether or not this trip is for you. Also, if you're wondering why I'm wearing a hat indoors, I am having a bad hair day. So let's start with a basic overview of this itinerary. It's a 10-day, 4-city trip, and you'll be visiting the top 4 safari destinations in Kenya, which are Nairobi, Amboseli, Naivasha, and Masai Mara. If you've never traveled with EF before and aren't familiar with their trips, they always include the travel days as part of their itinerary. So this 10-day trip is actually 8.5 days of you actually being in Kenya. Now, let's look over here at the prices for this trip. You can see that this trip falls in the higher end of the pricing spectrum. When I first saw how much it was, I was like, oh my god, you guys are out of your mind. But then I did some research on the internet, and that helped me make the final decision of actually booking this trip with EF. Here's what I found out about African safaris. Let me just grab my handy dandy notebook. The average cost of a mid-range African safari is between $300 to $600 per person per day. And the reasons why they were so expensive was even more shocking to me. For starters, the flight prices make up a huge chunk of that total. But the main thing that I didn't know until I did my research is that for every day that you spend at one of these national parks and reserves, which most of the lodges that you're going to be staying in are inside these parks, you're going to be paying a hefty conservation fee, which is typically included in the total price of your safari. So you're actually paying to help maintain and take care of these creatures, which I personally thought was really cool. So when I compare the price of EF's trip to other very well-known travel companies like Go to Africa and Kentucky, the prices were actually pretty similar, which was between $4,000 and $6,000. So this safari won't be the cheapest trip that you go on, but it will definitely be one of the most exciting and memorable, and here is why. Let's talk about the itinerary that EF chose and whether or not I felt like it was worth it for the price. Now, you're obviously considering this trip because you want to go see some animals, and Kenya is one of the top countries in Africa to do that. This specific trip starts in Nairobi, where you're going to be seeing a lot of giraffes and zebras. And the 2 highlights of this stop is the Nairobi National Park and the Giraffe Center. This was an incredible experience. I'm still like in shock that I got to get so close to the giraffes, and it was just amazing. Your next stop will be Amboseli National Park, which was my absolute favorite of all the spots that we visited in Kenya. I'll talk more about it later when I go over all the different lodges and hotels that we stayed at and all the ones that I liked and didn't like. But the biggest, quite literally, thing that you're gonna see in Amboseli National Park are the elephants. There is so many of them, and sometimes you'll just like wake up with all of these elephants like right outside your lodge, and it's amazing. Here is where you're also gonna see Mount Kilimanjaro and a lot of water buffalo. Lake Naivasha, I feel like we could have skipped this one. Not only was it super out of the way, but we were only there for like a day. We did go on this boat safari in Lake Naivasha to go see some hippos, but there were also a ton of hippos in Masai Mara, so that's another reason why I feel like we could have skipped it. I think the main reason why it's included, it's probably because of the optional excursion to go hike Hell's Gate National Park, which is what inspired The Lion King. And don't get me wrong, I love The Lion King. It was my favorite movie growing up, but I would have rather been giving that extra day to spend at either Amboseli or Masai Mara, like sitting by the pool and hanging out with the rest of the group and just getting to like enjoy these lodges. Like both the lodges in Masai Mara and Amboseli were just beautiful. So I do wish that we had more time to kind of just spend like hanging out in the lodges. Masai Mara, this is probably the most popular safari location in all of Kenya, and for good reason. At this park, you can most likely see all the big 5 if you're lucky, because it is huge. This is also where you see the most amount of lions and prize. This is where we caught the lions eating the wildebeest. We went out for a super early game drive and caught this incredible moment on camera. It was something that will last in my memories forever. After Masai Mara, you're back in Nairobi for your last day, which is technically a free day, which is where you basically get to do whatever it is that you want to do. A lot of people in our group went to this elephant resident sanctuary, which if you are interested in doing, you do have to book and reserve way ahead of time because I tried doing it last minute and they were fully booked. So I'll go ahead and link that activity in the description and also other suggestions of things that you can do on your free day in Nairobi. So was this itinerary worth it for the price? In my opinion, I definitely think it was. There was no point where I felt like we didn't see enough or that I had like overpaid for the experience. It was definitely unique in every way. Now there's a couple more things that you should definitely know before booking this trip. So if you're curious about things like how the transportation situation went or the exact hotels and lodges that we stayed at, and the one big mistake that I made before travel to Kenya, first give this video a thumbs up to let me know that you're still with me, and make sure to watch the second part of this review video next. Part 2 isn't coming out until next Saturday, but if you are super curious, you absolutely can't wait. I will post a private link to this video on the communities tab for subscribers. This special private link will allow subscribers to watch this video before it goes public next Saturday, or you can also wait until next week at 9 a.m.